Hello and welcome to episode 104 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Basically, a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and a new set just arrived, so you get to hear our first sips or our first thoughts on that. But first, each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
All right. Tonight we have a white mocha. It's a coffee chocolate nitro white stout from Cowbell. It's 5%. The can's kind of nice. It has like a brewery and then a chocolate store and then a coffee shop. So all the things that went into this beer. Yes, I love white stouts because they mess with my mind, and I think that's fun.
We have some magic news. Phyrexia All Will Be One has been released for an entire week, so I hope you've all been playing it as much as we have. We've mainly been drafting it, but we're going to talk a bit about Standard as well. But this weekend, the Pro Tour is back. I know, it's been gone for so long. So this is PT Philadelphia Pro Tour Phyrexia this weekend, February 17th to the 19th. And it is in paper. I know we don't talk about paper that often because we're an arena podcast. I know. But anyway, the formats are All Will Be One Draft and Pioneer. So this one's actually going to be pretty cool. So the 17th and the 18th, day 1 and day 2 are exactly the same. There are 3 rounds of draft in the morning and then 5 rounds of Pioneer constructed afterwards. So very easy. If you're only interested in one of the things, you can easily just be like, oh, I only want to watch the mornings and then I'll be fine. Because that might be what I'm most interested in. And then the top 8 is on Sunday. As always, it's Pioneer constructed single elimination playoff matches, that basically means that instead of playing best of 3, they're playing best of 5 games, and the first 2 are not sideboarded games. Anyway, it's going to be cool to have some like coverage that's in paper again, so we can remind everyone what that's like, since everyone's been complaining about the arena coverage.
That's right. Sounds like it's the classic Pro Tour format. Exactly. I think people haven't seen paper content in a while, and this could be a nice reminder that like arena is easier to follow. Mm-hmm. You have to like pretty much be an expert in the cards to follow it in paper. Yes.
And we'll also have the same fun what's in their hand, what's not in their hand, we don't know. Where it will update on the side the cards in the player's hand, but they're not always right all the time. And so then the commentators will get confused whether that will happen a lot. So just, it's cool that we're getting back to paper coverage. But there are pros and cons to both. Paper isn't just strictly better than the arena coverage. So, but you should check it out if you're interested. Do it. I'm going to definitely check it out and might be talking about it next week a little bit. So, yeah.
Check out as much of it as I can, with an emphasis on trying to watch the limited formats like you alluded to.
Yeah. Because that's my favorite thing. And also you get to watch someone, like watching the videos later of the drafter or how the games went or different things is really fun. So,
Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeff, are you ready to jump into your first sips of Phyrexia All Will Be One?
You bet.
Great. So, how are things going? How's it been? Your few days playing this set. How do you like it?
Good. So basically, I've put like a few deck lists together in Standard, but I'm missing a lot of the cards for them. So I'm currently in the phase of drafting, and then I have these deck lists that I just play with sometimes and mess around and try to work towards. I think I've already drafted this format more than I drafted Brothers War, so we're off to a good start here. I'm the highest limited rank I've been in a very long time, which is Platinum. So yeah, it's going good. I like it. Really enjoying it. How about you? You playing a lot, or?
I am. I mean, I saw that you had a couple 7-win runs. You posted them in our Discord, so that's pretty exciting. So if you want to see what those deck lists look like, check out our Discord channel. But yeah, it's been really fun. I know it's a really fast format, and I think Twitter has decided to throw it in the trash already. They're like, this is fucking sucks. I saw like some pro players be like, this is the worst draft format ever. I fucking hate it. And I'm like, as always, calm the fuck down. Come on.
So that's really interesting, because one thing I've decided with this format is that I'm not gonna like look up public opinion until I've decided my own things.
Mm-hmm.
Like usually when a new format comes out, I will have already watched like Ben Stark draft it a few times, and like I'll have a head start on what the pros think.
Yeah.
Good colors and good cards and stuff. I decided to do none of that this time. Partly because I don't know, I just wanted to see if I would come up with similar. Like I wanted to flex that skill of trying to decipher the draft format on my own, but also, kind of more importantly, just none of the people that I used to watch stream anymore. So it's like, I can't go watch a Ben Stark stream because he doesn't stream now.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been out of the like streamer game so long that I don't know who my favorite streamers are at the moment, because everyone that I would normally turn to isn't on. Or like sometimes Reed Duke will stream, but I think with the Pro Tour coming out, like he tends to take like a few weeks off before the Pro Tour from streaming.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't have a go-to for that kind of content. So this is like brand new information to me that it's not being well received. It is, luckily, I was able to identify that it's a fast format.
Mm-hmm.
All on my own, after getting 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-dropped out of a few games.
Oh, those are the best games, but I'm always the one who does 1-drop, 2-drop. Actually, I usually go 1-drop, 2-drop, 1-drop, 2-drop, but whatever. Yeah. I don't agree with what everyone seems to be saying. It's also the kind of thing that like
it's way too early to say it's bad.
Yeah, and it's
ridiculous.
I feel like this happens every time when there's like a new format, and people. I mean, I'm on Twitter a lot, so I see what everybody says. I don't write a lot of stuff, but I do read many things. And people when I'm talking about people saying this, they're pro players are talking about it on Tuesday, like the day it came out. That they're like, we don't.
Oh, okay.
They're like, we don't even have to wait to like. Can we
serious.
skip the whole like wait till tomorrow to really care? Because like I hate this, and I'm just like, come on, like I've gone through my own thing, and we'll talk a lot more about this next week. But I'm in a draft right now, playing a deck that I haven't drafted before or really played against. And so it's been a lot of fun. Finding that deck because the pieces fall into your lap because nobody likes a specific color is awesome. And you're like, oh, I will take these and see what I can do with them. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I might just keep trying to draft that deck, and we'll see how that goes until things level out a little bit, since it seems like, once somebody says, oh, these are the best colors or this is the best thing, you just run into everyone's drafting that and you can't really get a foothold. So then other things pop up. So I've been happy to see that I like the other option. That doesn't always happen.
Exactly. And you don't know that type of stuff, right? Like early on. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like, we say this all the time, but we know that early data is always skewed fast, because while people are figuring out the format, their decks aren't optimized. They're playing cards they probably shouldn't be playing, stuff like that. Fast decks get a huge, like an extra boost out of that, because fast decks take advantage of stumbling or of people, with playing like subpar cards. So the fact that the format is always fastest when it's new. I still think this is a fast format. There are just too many high quality 1 and 2 drops for it not to end up skewing a bit fast. But like, I don't know, it sounds like people are saying it's like, the fastest format of all time and therefore terrible, which, it's fast, but I don't necessarily agree with the link that fast is bad.
I also don't think that fast is bad. I loved Amonkhet Draft. I would draft it again.
I did not like, but so the problem with Amonkhet Draft was more that like, yes, it was very fast, but there was just one all-star deck, and you always wanted to be that deck. Like I think it was red white. I can't. It was quite remember. It was white for sure. But like, it's not like there were 3 or 4 fast decks, and then every deck had to respect the speed. It was like this one deck is just ridiculous, and you're just gonna get torched by it every draft. And that was what. It wasn't necessarily just the speed there. It was like the combo of it's very fast, but also very unbalanced.
Yeah. I was just well. I mean, I still like Amonkhet. I'm not retracting that statement. But it just feels like every time people talk about fast formats, that's the first one they go to. They're like, oh, when they talk about bad draft formats, they talk about Ixalan, and when they talk about fast formats, they talk about Amonkhet, and those are like the most recent ones that they jump to. Besides all the times
I mean, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to update it. Like bad format can be, I don't know, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, there you go.
And fast format can be Phyrexia.
Mm-hmm. We might have to change that up because, well, we'll see how the color imbalance shakes out. I feel like people are doing the same thing they did in AFR, where they're staying away from blue like the plague, and now I don't know if that's correct, but
so that's a decision I also made. Another place I line up, I guess, with public opinion. That one was really funny because I just got suckered a couple of times by blue cards, and then just had underwhelming draft like results, like 2 3s and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna take blue this draft as a test, because I would always see like, oh, this like the fucking blue icy manipulator. That's the one that always gets me. I'm always like, oh, this card's fucking nuts. Am I getting it like 5th pick? And I move in on blue, and then I have a shit draft. Like, I just do poorly. So I had to like just to stop myself, because it happened like a bunch of times to me. And I was just like, okay, just try to not take the blue cards, even if it seems like it's the wide open color and it's what you should be doing. Because at this moment, I don't trust myself to draft blue. I don't think I understand how the decks are supposed to work. So it's not like I think blue is so bad that you should never draft it, because it has some good cards. Like I still stand by that icy manipulator being a good card. But it's like, I don't understand how the blue deck is supposed to work, because any of them, really. Because I always think I have a pretty decent deck, and then I lose. So obviously there's like a disconnect. So I don't know if it's the same as AFR, where blue was just awful. Like the best blue common was worse than the like 5th best red common, that kind of thing. I'm not sure that's the case here, but I have also identified blue as like, I want to stay away from it for now. And I've noticed, I knew that other people figured that out too, because like in my more recent drafts, as I moved up to platinum, there's just so many blue cards everywhere in every pack. Nobody's taking them. So obviously like word is out, but I do want to like you're saying you explored a blue deck, it sounds like right now. I want to do that too, because I think there's some good cards to work with. So you could probably make at least one of the archetypes is probably decent.
Yeah, and because I haven't run into a lot of the different blue decks, and I agree that the cards are everywhere. And the reason I like the deck that I'm playing right now is because I had a bunch of uncommons that I normally wouldn't get if people cared about these cards, but like they just go, like you get them so late. You're like, well, okay, well, I'll just take a bunch of these. This is great. So we'll see. That draft is going well, but I also think that in the draft I'm playing, just as a caveat, I have been playing against a lot of blue decks, so it doesn't necessarily mean that like it's good against like the field. But I have been having fun with it, which I was doing the same thing. I was trying to avoid blue, and then the white red deck I was trying to build fell apart, and then I had to pivot into blue as my second color because there's nothing else. And I was like, well, okay. And then it ended up being kind of almost straight blue, because I was like, I just don't have anything. Like it's just a mess of crap. It felt like a disaster. And right now I'm sitting at like 5 wins. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this isn't so bad.
I mean, yeah, that's great. 5 wins as a blue deck. That's a win.
Yeah, that's boom. Draft limited format over. I did it. I figured it out. There's one other thing. This is more something I'm just trying this time, which I don't even think it's smart, but I have not opened any of my prize packs yet on the client. They're just sitting there, and I'm waiting until I draft a lot more so that hopefully, because as you all know, you can't open 5th copies of cards from a specific set on Arena. So the idea is that I draft all these like draft rares, and I pull all of them out from the draft cards that would be sweet in the draft. I'm like, yeah, I'll play this, and then I have a bunch of copies of those. So when I open the prize packs, I won't have any of those draft rares. I don't think it actually really matters, but I've thought about it before and I've never actually tried. So this is the first time I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to it until I decide to no longer stick to it. I don't know.
I like the experiment. And I'm curious the results. I just open them right away because like sometimes it's kind of random. I'll just be like, okay, it's time. I want to play Constructed, and I'll craft the rest of whatever I need for my deck. Mm-hmm. It's not always clear when I'll make that decision, so it's nice to know. It's nice to have, like, whether or not... How many wildcards will I need to use as an input to that decision?
Yeah.
Like, if I happened to open a bunch of Jasons or something, I know I don't have to craft all my Jasons, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not playing Standard right now. Spoiler alert, not really. I've played some old decks, but not, or whatever cards that I've actually drafted and I have copies of, but I haven't crafted anything.
Right.
So I'm waiting for that moment where I feel like I really want to, and then I'm gonna open everything and then craft the rest. So
nice.
I don't know if it's good. Anyway, that is a good lead into Standard. You said that you had a couple decks that you built and were waiting to get the other pieces in. Is that what? So you're saying that they're just sitting in your deck slot, and you just have the whatever cards that you haven't crafted yet, or sitting there waiting to be crafted, or are these like
exactly?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just lists that are sitting in my thing, and they have the big old, not valid indicator all over them.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling, like you, I haven't actually played a ton of the new Standard format. I have a feeling that this set will not have a particularly large impact on Standard.
Okay.
Or at least I feel that it has had almost no impact so far, just like looking at, just kind of briefly perusing what other people are playing. It seems like, there's a lot of mono white with no new cards. There's a lot of Grixis with no new cards and stuff like that. So
that's also like I'm one of those people. Like when I said I wasn't playing Standard,
yeah.
I'm playing an old deck whenever I feel like I'm on my phone or something playing Standard. And so I'm one of the no new card people.
Yeah.
So I get where that comes from. It's just like, oh, I want to play Magic, but I don't feel like getting a new deck right now or crafting something, or I'm just on the toilet for a certain amount of time. I don't on my phone, something like that. So it's like I can't.
Oh yeah.
Build it.
And I'm definitely not criticizing the people doing that. I think part of it is also just, well, you'll see when we get to our picks later. But it wasn't as easy to pick like the slam dunk as the layup as it usually is, because there are a lot of good cards, but I don't think any of them are like sure to see play, because there's just like Standard is just so powerful, and this set is maybe not. It's probably like middle of the road power level kind of thing.
I think I'll probably go with you that like it does feel like that, but I don't know. Forever, it just feels to me it feels pretty powerful, but I also don't always see the inherent power level of certain formats until it's too late. I feel like I have the like Fable of the Mirror Breaker glasses on all the time, where everything looks like, oh, this is pretty good, and I cannot really tell whether it's amazing or not until I get obliterated by it, and then I have the opposite effect where I feel like it's way too good until I play with it, and then I'm horrible at it.
Yeah, it's hard to evaluate cards. So that's why I'm saying it's like, this is my initial impression, that there's no Fable of the Mirror Breaker level card in this set. Like, none of the cards are as good as that card is. And we've had a few sets where they just have these staples of the format, right? Like, Wedding Announcement's another one that comes to mind. That's just, there are a lot of white decks going around, and they all play 4 Wedding Announcements. There are a lot of red decks going around. They all play 4 Fables. I don't know if this set's going to provide anything like that. It might be more of a role player kind of set.
Gotcha. Okay.
I will say, like, Toxic has the potential to become its own deck, right? So that's like enough of a unique and inherently powerful mechanic that's probably the biggest change I could see coming out of this, is if Toxic ends up becoming a viable aggro deck.
Yeah. I guess in my mind, when I'm thinking about a set that doesn't really impact Standard that much, my brain kind of goes to like Strixhaven, and it doesn't feel like that to me.
No, it's better than Strixhaven.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's sort of it affects Standard at a default level just because it has the fast lands. So it's sort of like, at the very least, it's going to impact Standard because the fast lands are like the best lands in the format for a lot of decks. But I was trying to like not take the lands into account.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say I think people have been shying away from green in Standard, and some of this set's better cards are green.
That's what I was gonna.
So it could like help push green back into the limelight.
Because I was looking at some of these cards and I was surprised that a lot of people were talking about green being one of the best colors in draft, and it not. And some of these cards being like, this looks awesome. Some of these cards are like, yeah, this is going to be sick and Standard for the green deck. And then I'm looking at lists and I'm like, there isn't a green deck around. Like it's
right.
Yeah.
What green deck?
Yeah, which green deck? That's for you to do your green black deck. That's what that means.
That's right.
Yeah. I think I did craft a Tyvar because I had you were in my mind, and I was sitting in a draft, and I was like, oh, fine, I'll take it.
Nice. Yeah, I took one too.
Yeah. Together we have.
And it was on my list,
2.
so I was like, of course, I'm gonna take this.
Man, that is one thing. Like, obviously, we talked about this 2 weeks ago with the no pass list, but it's so nice being able to like look at cards. Like, I looked at a Koth today, and I was like, no. It was like pack 3, and it was like not even close to my colors, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna take this removal spell instead.
See, I have the opposite. I was in like whatever, black green or whatever, and I see a Koth in pack 3. I was like, gotta take it. It's on the list. It's nice either way though. Like, just having that decision already made.
Yeah.
It feels so relaxing because you're just like, I'm not gonna stress about this. I've already decided I'm going to take this Koth, or I'm not going to take Koth because I don't want to play it.
Exactly.
So I'll just take the good black removal spell or whatever. You know?
Overall, I am really excited to continue the draft that I have going right now. Obviously, playing Magic is fantastic, and I love new sets, but I think this one more so than than Brothers War, I'm actually wanting to go and like play at this moment as we're talking, and I think that hasn't really happened. Maybe Dominaria United, but Kamigawa I was like really stoked on. So it feels like it's been a while since. Maybe it's just this time of year. Maybe just in January, February, I just want to play a ton of Magic. So I don't know.
Normally the fall set's the one that always gets me.
Yeah.
It's the one I play the most of. But yeah, I'm in the same position. Like, this is the most I've played in the first week of a format coming out in a while. But I'm just enjoying it. I didn't realize other people hated it. That makes me kind of like it even more.
I knew it would too.
I like that I came to some conclusions that other people seem to agree with. I had like 3 big things, right? I was like, okay, the things that I've decided on my own are I should stay away from blue until I understand it better. It's a fast format. You need 2 drops. And I think red green oil is my current like front runner for best deck. those were like the three things I was fairly confident on.
Interesting. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about red green oil. I've died to a couple. Nah, I didn't really feel like those decks though. It just kind of had like just creatures. Didn't feel like the oil deck, but I haven't played it yet. I actually haven't played a lot of red at all, so it'll be.
I've been playing so much red. It seemed like my experience has been pretty split. Where it's like if I played red, I think every time I've played red, I got at least 5 wins. Every time I played blue, I got like less than 3 wins. It's been a very all over the place format. Like normally I'll go the whole format. I won't get any 7-0s, and I won't get any 0-3s. Like those are very rare for me. But I have had both experiences in this format. Like that Nahiri like ridiculous Boros deck I sent in the Discord, that was 7-0, which was one of the first drafts I did. So that was a nice start.
Yeah.
But then I promptly like 0-3'd with some blue deck that I thought looked pretty good. So I was just like, you know what, this format's just wild.
Well, that Nahiri deck was great because then I immediately tried to build a deck like that, got a Nahiri, and went 2-3, and it was horrible. And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to play white-green again. And then I go like 6-3 or whatever. I'm like, nice. So...
Yeah. It was the lack of toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I say red-green oil's the best, I mostly just mean like red-green is kind of where I want to be. But the oil synergies are generally fairly good. Like the Flame Tongue Kavu guy.
Yeah.
For oil is quite strong.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a bit more about it next week. But just on that dude you're talking about, it's the 4-mana 4/2 artifact creature that's red. Every time I read that card, in my mind, it says it deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control. Like, that's all I see. So there's been so many times I'm like building an artifact deck. I'm like, oh, wait. No. That's not what it says. Okay. Nope. Don't pick it. Don't pick it.
That's not what it does.
I haven't had the problem where I like put it on a stack and then it resolves and I'm like, what do you mean I didn't get to blow anything up? I have like 5 artifacts. I haven't had that issue because I haven't really played red. So luckily.
Right.
I have steered clear from that, but
yeah.
Anyway,
super interested to see. Like, this is the really fun part about doing this too, where I don't really engage with, what other people are thinking. Is that when I watch the pro tour, they're going to tell me what the pros think of and it's all going to be like new, more or less. I'm like, oh, I was very wrong about this and this, but I got this and this right. Like, it's going to be it's going to make the Pro Tour more fun to watch, I think.
That will be fun, as well as seeing that the things that they say, they think they're really great, and then their deck is horrible. That's always fun, too.
Yeah, well, that happened in, like,
Worlds. It was at Worlds,
yeah.
Where you're like, why is...
Where I was just, like, insisting that Boros is good, and these crazy multicolor stupid plant decks suck, and it was so vindicating when the stupid plant deck did poorly and the Boros deck
dominated.
3-0'd the pot.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll see if that happens as well. Maybe it'll be like a mono blue deck that wins it all. That would be.
I would love that.
Oh my gosh!
It's just all like trawler drakes.
Because then after that, everyone they were just going to be playing like blue after that, like. There will be no blue cards if that happens. So, and that's what I love about draft. It just changes so much. It's great. But anyway, Jeff, I'm out of beer. And so I think it's time for a beer break, and then we can get on to our Wartha slots.
Let's do it.
This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener. But if you want to support the show even more, well, the Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co-host by clicking the big old Buy Jeff a Beer button.
Or clicking the reasonable sized Buy Zach a Beer button. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to vote on your favorite host.
Or if you'd rather send us beer emojis than real IRL beers, join the Arena Regulars Discord channel. The link for that should be in the show notes.
Okay, Jeff, this beer has a very specific instruction on the can. It's a beer that I got from this like little beer boutique by a friend of mine's house or his apartment, and the owner told me specifically to do what it says on the can. So you're gonna obviously do it, right?
All right.
Okay. Now, putting a sticker right on top of the lid seems like a bad idea normally, but and this is no exception. I think that this is
Yes, it's frustrated me, the sticker residue on, on the tip of my can.
All right, so the specific instruction, the guy at the store told me 3 things. He said to shake the can, pour it hard into a glass that is clean and dry. So I have rinsed my glass and dried it out. And I'm going to shake the can. So this beer, this is, it's called Keefe's Irish Stout. It's from the Granite Brewing Company in Toronto. And it is their Irish Stout, obviously. It's 4.5%. But it's nitro. And I don't know if the guy at the store was just saying specifically to me, have you ever had a nitro beer before? This is what you're supposed to do. Or he just tells everyone. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but I was like,
They seemed pretty intense about it. They put a sticker on the can.
It was pretty intense, especially because the sticker like leaves so much like paper. So if there's paper in this beer, bronze, immediately bronze. All right, Jeff, are you ready to pour this hard into the glass?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
All right.
I'm gonna crack it. It's gonna go all over my computer. Here we go. Oh yeah. It's definitely all over the place.
Yep. I wisely moved my keyboard back. So
I got it on my hand and my keyboard. Thank you so much, beer guy.
got all over the playmat I use as a mouse pad.
So my hypothesis for this beer was wrong. Yeah, I was definitely thinking that nothing was going to happen and it was going to be totally fine. However, that's not the case at all. It's just like crazy. Anyway, another nitro stout, 2 nitro stouts, but we just thought we'd try the nitro stouts back to back. And well, right now one of them blew up on my computer and the other one didn't. So I don't know where I'm leaning, but you might know from that. All right, Jeff, are you ready for our world famous Worthless Lot section?
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Jeff, would you like to explain to everyone what our Worthless Lots are?
Sure. So every set, after we've played the set for a very small amount of time, we decide to choose our Worthless Lot. So the idea here is that we would choose a series of cards that we think would be worth a slot in your deck. Now we have a gradation, we have a system here that we use. We like to basically go from our most confident prediction to our least confident prediction, and we use a sports metaphor, because we're cool sports guys.
We're cool sports guys. That's us.
That's right. That's actually the new name of the podcast.
Yeah, I watched the Super Bowl. Yeah, I know some things about sports.
But this is basketball, Zach, so
let's
focus. So our most confident prediction is a layup. Then we have our 3-pointer, which is our sort of medium confidence prediction. And we have our half-court shot, which is almost certainly not going to come true, but it'll be awesome if it does.
That is right. Okay, Jeff. I'm ready with some of my Worthless Lots, as always, because we like to do this on the fly sometimes. But we'll figure it out. Would you like to go first with your layup?
I think about it beforehand, but I never make any hard, firm decisions, and then I always change it up on the fly. So it's like half on the fly, half prepared. Sure, I can go first. As I was sort of alluding to in the first half of the show, I don't know that there's any super obvious cards to me that will definitely see play. I think there are a lot of cards that could. But what I'm excited about, again, we talked about it earlier, but is hopefully the resurgence of green. I think green's kind of fallen by the wayside in favor of your Grixis's and mono whites of the world. And that leaves green, crying in the corner. But there are some really serious green cards in this set. So I wanted to make sure I picked a green card. Now that comes with the caveat that if nobody plays green decks, then this actually won't see any play, right?
Of course, yeah.
But I'm betting on it being good enough. There's enough good green cards in this set to help green bounce back. So there's a few cards I could have chosen here. I think in the end I'll go with a black-green card because I think that has the highest likelihood of seeing play. And I think like this could be a reason, cards like this could be a reason that people start moving back towards Jund and away from Grixis as like the black mid-range deck of choice. So I'm going to choose Glissa Sunslayer as just a really, really pushed black-green 3-drop. So this card is a 1 black-green for a 3/3 legendary creature Phyrexian zombie elf with first strike and death touch. And when she deals combat damage to a player, choose one. Either you draw a card and lose 1 life, you destroy target enchantment, or you remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. So this card breaks the rule of creatures these days need to do something when you cast them. I think the upside is high enough though that it's worth it. The combination of you really, really don't want to block this because it beats everything in combat.
Everything.
And you really, really don't want to not block it because the like saboteur trigger is very, very strong. I think combine into like this card just being a must kill. And anytime you have a must kill, you just know it's like set. Like a 3-drop must kill creature is kind of rare. Usually a 2-drop or a 3-drop, you can take a few hits from them while you set up. 3-drop must kills are crazy. And like if you just imagine being on the draw and your opponent goes like whatever, some 2-drop Blood Tithe Harvester, say, into this, like you already just feel so far behind in this turn. You've had 2 turns, right? And you now have to kill this because you can't let it draw its cards, or you can't play an enchantment because it'll just destroy it. I've had to play against this card a few times in Limited, unfortunately. I've had the misfortune of having to play against this. It's just like, it makes you feel like there's nothing you can do because you don't want to block and you don't want to not block. You can't even multi-block it because the way Death Touch works, it will, unless you block it with 4 creatures that all have at least 3 power, it will win the combat. This just wins all combat, essentially.
Yeah, this card is the shit. I've played it in draft, which is a lot of fun, and it was actually one of my picks for this because I was like, this card is so awesome. But what I'm there's 2 things I want to say about this card that you didn't already touch on. That it's basically unblockable. But so the one thing is, so when it says remove up to 3 counters from target permanent, like remember it says permanent because it doesn't take out poison counters off of players. So just remember that. But I do want to know what shenanigans you can do with it. Besides, like, my first initial reaction was, okay, it feels like it almost has the same text as Questing Beast. It's like when you hit a player, you also get to deal damage to a Planeswalker because you take off counters from them. But also, like, are there any black and green sagas that you want to just keep using over and over again by taking the counters off and just continuing to have that on the battlefield? And obviously taking counters off if your opponent's creatures win.
And just play Jund.
Yeah, but then my question is, do you want to take the counters off of Fable? And so you're making shamans and discarding cards? Don't you kind of want it to flip a lot of the time? It's like if I could add counters to Fable so it would flip faster. That seems like
it would have been so good with binding the old gods.
So good. It would have been so good. Play this in Pioneer. Yeah, because then blow up one of their blockers, attack in, they like have to take it, and then you take the counter off, and next turn you blow up a new thing. So that sounds like a deck I want to play. So this card seems sweet. And I would much rather see Jund running around than Grixis, I think. Just because the feels. That's how I feel. Anyway, awesome. Definitely love that pick. My layup, no surprise, is a white card. And this is one that I kind of glossed over early because of what it is and its mana cost, which are 2 things that I tend to not care about. But I'm going to talk about the Eternal Wanderer, which is 4 white for a 5 mana legendary planeswalker. It has a static ability. It says no more than one creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. It has a +1 that says exile up to one target artifact creature. Sorry, exile up to one target artifact or creature. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of that player's next end step. 0, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike. Whew, love that word. And then -4, this is the big one. For each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control, not chosen this way. So,
Yeah. Wow.
through the whole thing, I think when I was first reading this card, I kind of read the top ones, and I just tend to not read the bottom. Just like on every Planeswalker, I tend to not really read the ultimate because it tends to never happen. However, this ultimate can happen when you play it, which is always enticing because building up to an ultimate, not my favorite. Ultimating right when it comes down, yeah, like it. And this one is a really crazy board wipe because you get to choose who lives and who dies. Like most of the time with these white things, it's like each player chooses a creature and sacrifices the rest. No. This one, you get to pick them. It's so awful when like your opponent gets to keep like their Shieldred or whatever, and then they like, or in this case, it's probably like their, I don't know, their Adeline or something great, or their whatever they're using, and gives you like a 1/1 token or like something terrible, or like I guess if you're playing Toxic, they give you one of your mites and you can't even block with it. Like it is brutal. So this card with this like there's a mono white mid-range deck that's starting, like it started with the Wandering Emperor was like its top end, and now it's slowly building up. It went to Elspeth, and now it's like coming up to another Wandering Emperor, the Eternal Wanderer. So I like it. I think you wouldn't have very many of these, and it is a very niche deck, but I think this ability is strong enough and specific enough that it's one of those like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I'm expecting to see this in standard.
Yeah, I think the reason I slept on this was that my brain auto-corrected the last ability to like the usual each player chooses a creature and destroys the rest, like you mentioned, like which is much worse than this.
Much worse.
The fact that you get to choose, there was a card like this in Khans of Tarkir where you destroy all but one creature or something. So not quite the same because I didn't have to. I would never leave them with one of their creatures, basically. It was like super busted and limited, but it was just too expensive for constructed. This to me, I almost read it as like that bottom ability is the main reason you play this card, and then the rest is all upside.
Yeah.
So you think of this as like a board wipe, a very strong board wipe that leaves behind just so much extra value. And board wipes are like, there are no good cheap board wipes at the moment. So the fact that this is 6 mana, it's not like, oh well, you know, it's so much worse than the other board wipe options. It's like, it's not. It's this and like Farewell are your choices.
Exactly.
So,
and this is a card.
this card's really good.
Farewell's a card I'm not interested in because that's a very like control-y card where they just try to wipe everything clean and then land something huge. Where this card you can play in your creature decks because it could still do stuff when you're not wiping the board. And then if things get out of hand, you can wipe the board or whatever. It's just much more utility than the Farewell is in.
The plus is quite good in a creature deck too.
Yeah. Double strike? 2/2 double strikers? I mean, obviously 6 mana for a 2/2 double strike, that's sad. But the fact that you can continue to make them and the loyalty stays the same is nice. It's very nice.
Good choice. I like the card. And I didn't really have my eye on it because I think I just assumed the last ability worked the way that they usually do.
That's what I thought too, until I ended up playing one match against it randomly, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. I get like my best creature. I pick this one, and it didn't let me pick. I'm like, oh no, Oh no, I'm stuck with a 1/1. This sucks. That was really bad. And then I conceded on the
You're
spot.
like waiting for your chance to choose your creature.
Yep.
Wait, what just happened?
Never came. Just never came.
So the next card I want to talk about is one that we did talk about 2 weeks ago, but I want to sort of reiterate that I just like this card. I think it is very powerful. It's just about whether there's a home for it. So for me, it just makes the perfect like 3-pointer worth a slot because the card is definitely good. It's just we don't know if there's going to be a deck that wants this effect because it's not sort of generically all-star powerful, and that's Jace. So my 3-pointer is going to be Jace the Perfected Mind. It's 2 blue and a Phyrexian blue, which means you can pay blue or 2 life. If you choose to pay 2 life, it enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. So this is the completed ability we've seen a few times. It has 5 if you pay full for it. It has a +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gets -3/-0. It has a -2. Target player mills 3 cards. Then if a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, you draw 3 cards. Otherwise, you draw 1 card. -X. Target player's mills 3 times X cards. So I think one thing to keep in mind with these planeswalkers, right? Your brain wants to evaluate them as a 4-mana planeswalker. But like we've learned before that 3-mana planeswalkers are always so much better than they look. And this is actually upside on that because it's 3 or 4 mana. So it's not a 4-mana planeswalker, it's a 3 or 4-mana planeswalker, which means it's better than a 3-mana casting cost. Generally, I mean, you do have to pay the 2 life, but generally speaking, you're not going to be too worried about that so early in the game. So basically the point I'm trying to make is like the bar is relatively low on what this has to do at 3 mana or 4 if you want it to do a bit more. And the +1 is really good at defending itself. Like we've seen pluses like this that are just super annoying. Like when you're on the play, for example, this comes on turn 3. How many creatures is your opponent going to have? Generally 0 or 1. And is that creature going to have more than 3 power? Probably not. So the +1 just like is going to, even on an empty board, is likely to keep the Jace around. But the -2 is really what I'm interested in here. Like if any deck is at all interested in milling itself, if that deck just exists, this -2 is very, very strong. Mill 3 cards, draw a card. Even if you forget about the fact that when you get to 20, it's turbocharged. Just mill 3 cards, draw a card. In decks that care about milling is very close to draw 2 cards, which is obviously an insane planeswalker ability. And the last thing might come up. I know you've been talking about it in Rogues, and like, I want to just like mill you for 9. Pay 3 mana, 2 life, and mill you for 9 to turn on all my Rogues. I have a feeling this ability won't be used super often. But hey, sometimes it will come up where this was good. So, yeah, I think just as like a draw engine that protects itself fairly well. And the only missing piece of the puzzle is you have to want to mill a player. Usually, I assume it's yourself, but you know, in the Rogues example, it's pretty good to point this at the opponent. But that's like the whether or not Jace sees play is basically just are decks interested in milling?
I mean, like, if a deck is interested in milling itself, you're going to find it because that's the kind of thing you have wanted to do in the past. And I haven't seen you play a deck like that in a long time. So I'm excited to see.
That's the deck list I have currently built. Yeah. It has 3 Jaces, but I'm waffling between 3 and 4. I currently have 0 in my collection. So.
I think I opened 1, and that was the one I needed. So I'm very happy with that. But, you know, I might need more if this comes up. Ugh, this always happens. Every time Jeff talks about a deck that he's building, like, now I just want all the cards for it. It's just, it's so frustrating. Awesome. Well,
I'll just only talk about mono white from now on.
Yeah. That would be great. So my 3-point shot, is also a card that we've talked about before. And the only reason I'm counting it as a 3-point shot is because of the color that it is. And you were already talking about this, and you took a nice shot on your layup, just being like, I want this card. And I think this card would be nice in that deck as well and go very well with that card because it's Tyvar Stand. I love this card. I can't not love this card. It's so good.
I had a feeling when you said it was a green card, I was like, oh, is it Tyvar Stand?
It's my favorite green card. X and green for an instant. Target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And it's just so nice because like these, I love these protection spells, the 1-mana protection spells, which this is. But it also kills your opponent. And green also has lots of trample. So it all kind of works out. It's so nice. Especially when you have like, Glissa is out and the only thing they're going to ever do is try to kill it with a spell or a board wipe. And you're like, oh, sorry. Boom. Stopped all of that.
Yeah, this is like the most pushed version of these cheap green protection spells we've seen in a while. Mm-hmm. Like normally these cards are +1/+1 and hexproof, or +2/+2 and indestructible. It's rare that you get both, and then also like it scales and just kills them, like you said in the late game. This is like the dream version of this card because when you care about the protection, you're only paying 1 mana, and then when late game you care about the damage, then you pay more. And the 1 mana gets you both hexproof and indestructible, which is the key. Usually they don't do that.
So
then it survives wraths, it survives single targeted removal. It doesn't survive farewell, but everything else.
Yeah, it doesn't survive farewell, and then if you there's probably a situation where if people end up starting to run what is it, Liliana's no, not Liliana, sorry. She's not in this set. Shieldred's Edict is like,
oh yeah, that card is pretty good.
So we might start to see that around, probably to get rid of planeswalkers, but also I think people were talking about using it to get around some of the venerated Rot Priest stuff. But in any case, that might be the only thing that is a problem. But I just don't. I think you're just having more stuff going on. So stoked for this card. Definitely worth a slot in your deck. But it is great because you can craft these no problem. Don't even worry about it. So the only caveat and the only reason it's like a 3-pointer like this is because green right now isn't a big deck. So we just need green to be a deck.
Exactly. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. I have so many options in my head about the half-court shot. Some of them I think are like a little too good to really be half-court shots. I'm going to go with one that does feel like a bit of a long shot, but I could see it. So I'm going to choose Atraxa, Grand Unifier, mostly because this makes me think of not Nicol Bolas. Makes me think of Niv Mizzet. Mm-hmm. So this card is 3 green, white, blue, black for a 7/7 Phyrexian Angel legendary creature. It has flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink. And when it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 10 cards of your library, and for each card type, you can put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I'm imagining some like standard deck that is the 5-color domain stuff. So it plays like the that cheap removal spell if you have domain. Maybe it does the whole like Okagachi thing. And it has this as its top end. And this again, like they're sort of explicitly giving a nod to Niv Mizzet, I think, here with a very similar ability of look at 10 and draw a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. I underestimated Niv Mizzet when I first read it as well. And after playing with it, was like, oh, this is actually, turns out like a 6/6 flyer that draws 4 cards is amazing. So this is obviously better than that. 7/7 flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. That's probably going to draw at least 3 cards. But it's much more expensive. This costs 7 instead of 5. Mm-hmm. So I think it is still a bit of a long shot. Just, you know, it has to be in a 4 or 5 color deck, and it still costs 7 even if you jump through that hoop. But the power level's definitely there, so I could see it. And there's enough on theme stuff here. There's like been minor multicolor 5-color themes, and a few cards have been piling up for that theme. And we have treasure tokens and stuff, so I kind of want to see if somebody just builds the like Atraxa deck.
Yeah, that's true. Are we also interested in reanimating Atraxa or cheating it in any way?
Honestly, didn't even really think of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could do that.
Because that sounds pretty sweet. The other thing to note with this is that this was something we didn't really talk about on the show, but like it was a huge breakout thing when this card came out, because when it was talking about card types, one of the card types it says is battle. Now, battle is not a card type in Magic, so this is a little nod to we're getting a new card type. I'm fairly certain it's March of the Machines, so look out for whatever the hell that is. And maybe that will make this card great. We don't really know. But, I mean, like, I was hoping the same thing with Karn in Dominaria United, where he had an ability like with the Power Stones, and then there's more Power Stones in Brothers War, but he ended up didn't matter. So I don't know if this is going to be a similar thing where it's like, oh, what is that new thing? Oh, it doesn't actually matter. Okay, whatever. But regardless, like, this is still pretty sweet. It does seem like this is the kind of card that, like, it's really fun to be a half court shot, because it would be a fun deck to play until it's like really good, and then it's just so miserable, and I just hate it.
Yeah,
but
that's where you want this type of card to be, is like a long shot.
Mm-hmm. Where it's like, well, I lost to Atraxa somehow, but it was pretty sweet. So that's always nice. This is so hard because I feel like my half court shots have been super spicy in the past, and I love yours so much that I almost feel like I just want to build the deck with you right now. So I'm going to jump on the back of your Atraxa half court shot and add another card to that deck, which is, I don't know if it's also not going to see play. I mean, it possibly could, but I think it would go in that deck. And it's Green Sun's Twilight. So X and a green for a sorcery. Reveal the top X cards plus 1 of your library. You choose a creature card and or a land card from among them. Put those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library to random order. If X is 5 or more, instead put the chosen cards onto the battlefield or into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. This is a really great way of cheating Atraxa out onto the battlefield for 6 mana, and it's only green. And I don't know. I've played with this card a lot, actually. I've drafted it 3 times, and they've all been a lot of fun.
Wow.
Going into one of my favorite drafts, which is where I had Green Sun's Twilight into Tyrannix Rex, which happened very often, and it was a blast because that creature has haste. So
that is amazing.
It was amazing. So I can vouch for the power of Green Sun's Twilight, at least in the 40 card deck. But I'm sure in the 60 card one, it would be great as well. If maybe you have another something, but like being able to like 6 mana of whatever colors, and obviously you're green, so you're ramping into it. So this is probably turn 5, and you play a 7/7 flying Death Touch lifelink, draw a bunch of cards.
Like, love it.
And then you just get another Green Sun's Twilight to put into your hand because you find one off of Atraxa. Just in case she gets killed, you do it again. Anyway, so that's it's not as splashy or different, but I think that maybe our half court this time, I'm going to piggyback off of you, and it's going to be, this is the new deck we're building, apparently. I'm actually kind of excited by this. This actually feels possible.
You have to go build that deck.
I think we got to build this deck. So if you're interested in trying to help us build that deck, come to our Discord channel and we'll maybe we'll workshop it together, because that seems like a lot of fun. I do think we'll have to name it something Nitro Atraxa, because we're drinking all these nitro stouts. Jeff, this is usually part of the show where we talk about some overrated and underrated cards. Mm-hmm. I think there's maybe one card I wanted to talk about. There was a card I had in mind coming into this, and then I ended up seeing it and starting to play with it a little bit, and then I was like, I don't know if it might be as good as everyone's talking about, but it also could be terrible. But it's also not really the card that I like playing. I don't really know. But I think I'll just jump right into it. I just don't know how overrated it is, but I feel like it's a card people are talking about, and I really didn't like it at the beginning, and I still hope that this is more of a vengeance thing. It's not so much that I think the card's bad, it's that I hope the card's bad because I don't want it to be good.
Gotcha.
And it's probably trash. But I'm going to talk about Mind Splice Apparatus, which is 3 and a blue for an artifact. It has flash, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on it, and then instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each oil counter on the Mind Splice Apparatus. So this is just straight spell slinging bullshit that I don't love playing decks like this for the most part. The best part about this card is that it has flash, so that like when you're doing your shit, you just end step play this, and then your upkeep immediately everything's cheaper, which I do kind of like. It is nice when your cards are super cheap, and then maybe you're playing like a giant. I don't know, any of the X spells in the set are nice to play for free. Basically, I don't know. For the most part, it just feels to me like a do nothing artifact that costs 4 mana, and it just doesn't affect the board the way I would like. And I felt like I saw a lot of people get really stoked on this, and I watched Covert Go Blue play it in the early access event, and that deck seemed pretty cool. It was like a proliferate poison counter deck without playing real poison creatures. It was just like that card that it just proliferates and stuff, which was kind of fun to watch, but not necessarily the deck type I enjoy. So I don't know if that's the reason I was off it or just not really excited about it, but it seemed to be the really exciting thing. I think I saw somewhere there's an article that said it's the new wilderness reclamation.
Yeah, that seems that it's, if anyone says that, then it's overrated. Yeah, this was on my list as well. So if this card didn't have flash, it would be unplayable.
Horrible. Absolute trash.
Like you said, it does have flash, so that puts it in the conversation. The best thing you can do with this card is obviously X spells. So the fact that White Sun's Twilight exists and Blue Sun's Twilight would be, in my estimation, the reason to do this, because imagine you're a control deck. When you get to the stage where this has been out on the battlefield for several turns, you don't need this anymore. You've won the game. When the blue-white control deck or whatever, is turn 10 and it has a bunch of lands, it doesn't need to make its spells cheaper. You will already win the game without this. So that's why I'm saying you need a reason to do this. And I think it's somewhat convincing that White Sun's Twilight and Blue Sun's Twilight and stuff like that could be that reason. Just having, or there's the Silver Scrutiny, I want to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, this turbocharges those. I'm not super interested if you're telling me, some of my counter spells cost 1 less, because they're not going to cost 2 less because they're cheap to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's where this has to go. And then I'm not sure that that's even the best way to build a control deck. And then it's also super susceptible to artifact removal, which, this thing is easy to kill and it's expensive. So I think all that together means that this is a cool card, and the idea of like playing these big X spells and X is like 10, yeah, is awesome. I'm wondering how many games you win because of this, and like, would you have won if this was just something else? I think the answer is most of the time you would have won if this was just a different good card. Yeah, so I think it probably is overrated, but I think there's some excitement around like control decks, and also I think proliferating onto this is like really bad. Like, if you're building your deck to proliferate, what's going to happen is you're going to have this card, and all of your proliferate spells are going to be cheap, but like they don't do anything because all they do is proliferate an oil counter on
Yeah, they make this better.
It's like, eventually you need cards that do something. That's why, it's got to be White Sun.
Yeah. And the card that does something is that 1 in a blue, give your opponent a poison counter, draw a card. That's the only thing you got.
Right. That's the best card in the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people are really into this. It's a neat idea, right? To play like a blue-black control deck that wins by incidentally like poison countering the opponent on everything. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's that good. But I think that's a totally fine pick because people are pretty psyched on this card, in my estimation. And I think it's probably kind of a flavor of the month thing. Maybe it turns out that, hey, this card is just it's powerful, right? So maybe it's just powerful enough.
Yeah.
But my money would be against it because if it even starts to get good, people just start playing really efficient artifact removal, and then you're stuck with all these expensive X spells, and they killed your thing. I think there are a lot of cards I could choose for my overrated, but I'll just go with the one that just stood out to me when I thought overrated. I thought of this card. That to me, that's Vraska.
Oh.
I think people just really want Vraska to be good. I just don't see it. Like, everyone has this idea of the Super Friends deck, and then you play the Vraska and you proliferate, and all of your planeswalkers get extra counters. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, sure, but again, if you have multiple planeswalkers in play and they've all survived and they're sticking around for turn 5 or 6 or whatever, did you need this card? Because you were dominating the board with planeswalkers. All of these abilities are fine, right? Like, draw a card, lose life, proliferate. It's fairly strong. Target creature, it's a removal spell. Make something into a treasure. So 5 or 6 mana is too much for just draw a card on a planeswalker.
Yeah.
So you need more than that. And giving someone a treasure token is a big downside.
That sucks.
Like, this isn't just a blanket removal spell.
What
right?
is with
creature only?
Yeah. What is with people loving to give their opponent like lands or like mana?
It's so bad. We've seen stuff like this in the past, and it's always way worse than it looks. Yeah. So I think people are always trying to build the like Super Friends, Vraska, proliferate deck. I'm sure this goes in the blue-black, like proliferate, poison counter your opponent thing. You're never getting to 9, first of all, because you have to activate it 3 times to do that. And again, you would have won. If this sticks around, you're winning that game, whether you use that ultimate or not. The ultimate doesn't even actually kill them. It actually can't kill them. So, I don't know. I think this card's pretty meh. I think it reads really well. It looks good. Like, all of the abilities seem good. And, like, you're always imagining it under best case scenario. Oh, I have a bunch of planeswalkers and I proliferate. It's like, okay, but what do you do on an empty board or when you're a little under the gun? You, like, turn one of their things into a fucking treasure token so that they can play a bunch of stuff next turn and you're even further behind. Like, it just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like that's what this card's going to do. It's going to come down when you're behind. You're going to pay 2 life for it. And then you're going to remove one of their things. Then it's going to die, but they're going to play 2 things because you just gave them a treasure token. And then you're going to be in a worse position than you were before you played this. See, that's the play pattern I'm seeing.
Yeah. It looks cool, but I definitely agree with you that I don't know, Super Friends decks, I don't know why people are excited by them. But they always, for me, they just don't ever seem that fun. But I don't know if that's, once again, just not my style.
This might be like a vengeance thing, just like you, where I just don't want this to be good. I don't want to play against the all planeswalkers deck that's proliferating. So I'm going to say this is bad and move on with my life.
Yeah, exactly. This is the same. This is another overrated card that I don't know why people were talking about. That I just was not excited about. That I almost talked about. I just want to talk about overrated cards. But Ickermoon Gauntlet. Do you remember seeing this card?
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, two and a blue for an artifact. It just gives your planeswalkers 0 proliferate and then -12 take an extra turn. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can choose a counter on target permanent and put an additional counter on that. So it's like when you play non-creature spells, you proliferate for one thing. But it's another like 3 mana bullshit artifact that like gives your planeswalkers like bad abilities. Like 0 proliferate, that's not really great when you need a planeswalker to do it. I don't know. Ugh. So
think about like a lot of the time 0 proliferate is the same thing as +1 blank. +1 nothing.
+1 gain a life, lose a life, you know? Like it's just, oh man. Anyway, I'm looking at some like underrated cards, and I feel like what we've been talking about for the most part is that they all feel that I don't think anything is hiding in the weeds. There's nothing that's like, I mean, you might have one. I think I know which one you might be talking about. But for me, I think that like every card seems to be either overrated or fairly appropriately rated. And yeah, we'll just have to see. Do you have an underrated card for us?
There are a few that I could choose. I think it's hard because I don't necessarily know. Like, underrated's always weird because it's just that you don't see people talking about them. Overrated's always easier because it's like people are actively talking about them and you're like, wait, what? Whereas the opposite of like, what card aren't people talking about? So it's a little trickier. And we've kind of made this point. I don't think there's anything here that's like amazing and nobody's talking about it. So usually I have a pretty good pick for this, and I don't really have one. But one card that like I'm interested in that I don't think I've even heard anyone else mention is Vran.
That's exactly. I knew
Execution.
This is one that I was looking at earlier, and I was like, I know Jeff's probably going to pick this one, so I'm going to let you talk about it. Sorry for interrupting you, but go ahead. You can talk about Vran.
Yeah, Vran Executioner Thane. So 1 black for a 2/2. Whenever one or more other creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. It triggers only once each turn. So triggers only once each turn, bit of a bummer. It's a legendary creature, and it's just a 2/2 for like just a grizzly bear otherwise. But this ability is very good. Like draining for 2 is way more than you usually see. Usually, like they don't even give you Blood Artist anymore. It's like draining for 1. They give you like opponent loses 1 life. So it has to play a little differently. It's not like the combo sack all my creatures in 1 turn. You lose 8 because it can't do that. But that's like hefty. Anytime a creature dies, it drains for 2. That's pretty huge. So, I'm definitely interested in playing sacrifice decks. I didn't even know about this card until I drafted it. And I was like,
really?
I kind of want to play this in Constructed.
I thought this would be all
somehow this
over
one
your
slipped
radar.
by me. Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect underrated, and it was one I was thinking about, but I just knew you were going to pick it, so I had nothing else to go for. But this is one that, like, there were a ton of people super stoked, but then as soon as they saw that this ability triggers only once, they were so off it, like, incredibly hard, which I don't see why, because the, like, Rakdos sack decks, like playing Anvil, is basically the same because you can only do that once. Like
right.
Like those that ping ability only works once a turn because you have to tap it. So like, I don't know. This is exactly the same, except for not because you can do it on their turn too. It's even better. So And you're right, draining for 2 is so much.
You could still kill in a hurry with this. Like, it's one of those your end step, like on my turn, your end step, and then my turn again. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of damage that just came out of nowhere. You start combining it with other effects like the anvil or the white black, like Ilias core thing.
Oh yeah.
Gets it up to like 3. It just kills so quickly. So if it weren't legendary, this would be a no-brainer. You just stack these, then you kill them immediately.
They probably thought about that. That's why.
Yeah. I think maybe they knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely interested. One question I have is, how does it work with Drivnod, Carnage Dominance? Because Drivnod says if a creature dying causes a triggered ability to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. But this ability says explicitly it only triggers once.
I don't
I
know.
My instinct would be that it triggers twice, but I actually don't know.
I don't know. That is an interesting question, because then we'd have to judge. If you're a judge or you know anyone who is a judge, please tell us. Because I would want to know that. I mean, it does say that it triggers an additional time, and this literally tells you won't ever trigger another time. So I could see it being sad, being very sad. But
yeah, because that'd be the difference between me crafting any Drivnods versus not crafting any Drivnods.
I think you shouldn't craft them and just play it, because I think Vran's good enough by itself. The Drivnod is just like extra gravy.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll pick up one and you can check it out. But this is why
I'll report back.
We need a mode in Arena where you can just play any card just against a computer to check and see if the rules work the way you think they do. You know? It's like, let me build my brew, I'll play against Sparky, and then when I realize that actually isn't how Magic works, I won't waste any of my money on it. But
that's right.
That wouldn't be very helpful for Wizards. Anyway, all right. Great. I love them. I'm excited to look back on these and see how right I was. Green's going to be a deck for sure, and we have a fucking sweet brew coming up. I'm very excited for this Atraxa deck.
Yeah,
look out for that one. I'm going to have to start drafting Atraxas now. So that's... damn it, I just added something to my no pass list. And this is all...
Oh boy.
We were talking about how, like, having our no pass list, we're trying to keep it separate from the worthless slots. But then what happens is when we talk about worthless slots, you just start adding cards to your no pass list. It's just...
Yep.
Works the other way. Anyway, Jeff, let's go to last call.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so we have 2 beers to rate this evening, and as always, we are rating on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. This has nothing to do with which tier you are in currently, because we've all been in different tiers at different times, and it's also just a fun way to rate beer. But with that being said, bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You throw them out, you can't even drink them. They explode all over your computer, and then you I don't know, you throw up or something.
Silver beers are just beers that aren't super interesting, so macro brews or just, micro brews that don't have a lot going on tend to fall into this category. Gold
beers are fine, but you don't really think about them very often.
Platinum are solid. You drink this again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You go back and buy more, and you bring them to show your friends.
And Mythic, these are the best of the best. You would recommend these to anyone who will listen. These are your favorite beers.
Alrighty. 2 Nitro Stouts, 2 very different styles.
Yes.
Do you have your pick for the night? I got mine in my hand.
Yeah.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. White Mocha. Knew it.
I had a feeling
that
we were going to align on this one.
I was, I think from all the noises I was making early on, is fairly obvious and fairly different and weird.
Yeah.
But good.
Yes.
So this from Cowbell, I can't even think of another Cowbell beer that I've really enjoyed. They always feel like meh to me, but I also can't remember anyone in particular. So, have we done a cowbell beer on the show before?
I don't know. I had the exact same thought process where I was like, in my mind, cowbell is like meh. So I wasn't super excited about this. But then I was like, what are the cowbell beers that I've had? And I couldn't even.
I can't even name any of them. So, yeah, this was so interesting. It's very different because we've had one other white stout on the show, which is the day you gave the glasses, which is it was bringing me back. Very cool.
Right.
That was super sweet. And this one is so different than that one. Because that other one was like much more coffee forward, and this one had much more chocolate, which I loved.
This one was pretty chocolatey.
It was very chocolatey and creamy. And I didn't really know what to think, but obviously weird looking beers always seem good to me, but I like this.
I enjoyed it as well. If you've never had a white stout, you gotta try it. Like, I don't know why, but it just definitely messes with my mind. The fact that it looks like a regular beer and tastes like a stout. And I never get used to it. And so this one had the same process of it took me a few sips to I wasn't even really tasting it because I was just too messed up. But then when all the dust settled on that, I did like it. I have no idea what to rate it, but I decided I think I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it Diamond, I think.
I'm kind of with you too, because this is so different and unique that, and it's not so out of left field that like you wouldn't be able to convince people to drink this. You could go to be like, hey, I know what you think about cowbell, but like just drink the white mocha one. It's going to be kind of weird, but it's worth trying. You should definitely test it out.
Yeah, exactly. I would recommend it. So.
Yeah. And right now, I would, if I had 2 more of these, I would probably drink both of them. It's like low in alcohol.
That's right.
Happy with it. Diamond. Agree with you. It's very nice. Let's go over to Keefe's Irish Stout. So, still good beer. I was upset with the sticker.
Yeah.
The sticker.
It was off to a bad start.
So it had some things against it. The sticker thing on the top, that's very unbecoming. And the instructions were horrible. You should definitely not do any of the things. You could pour it hard, but you shouldn't shake it. I don't know why that was explicitly on the thing.
I didn't even feel like I shook it that aggressively. I gave it like a little back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I didn't do a shake weight. I just did like a little, I don't know,
right,
jingle jangle.
Because I was nervous that it was going to explode,
and it did.
It still exploded.
Yeah.
So
that's more so. To be fair, I feel like a lot of that's coming from like the place I bought it. The actual taste of the beer is good. It's like toasty and kind of smoky and rich and nice. But it's so hard for me to get a nitro stout that I don't just want to be Guinness. Like I feel, for me, I'm just like, but like.
I thought it was kind of boring. I don't know. Maybe it's because it was after the white mocha.
It is like run of the mill.
But it just came in. It just was super like flat, like not flat as in not carbonated, flat as in like, I don't know. It wasn't super interesting to me. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Guinness in that regard. It's just like, this is so like meh. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're just looking for different things in a stout, or it probably is like the white mocha was just so in your face, and then this one was so pulled back in comparison.
This one,
but I had this one at Gold.
Yeah, this one tasted very similar to what I was expecting it to be. I'm gonna give it Gold, but that's because of the entire experience. If I tasted this on draft and Keefe's gave me one, I'd probably give it Platinum. But like overall, I was displeased. Gold
because of the sticker.
Displeased because of the sticker. But no, I like Guinness because you can drink them all day. It doesn't feel like you've had anything. It's like an alternative to. It just jumps so many levels. I love Guinness. You know I love Guinness. I would fly. Like the reason I want to go to Ireland is to go drink Guinness at the factory. So that's a huge marker for like how much I love Guinness. Anyway, we should go to closing time. So, as always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Might also find us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg, that is ZeulBerg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on our Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff. The Discord channel link is in the show notes.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify and leave us a review there if you can. Go to our YouTube channel and figure out where our videos are and leave us some comments. All of your input is really helpful and we love to hear it. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you not to shake up a can of beer before opening it.
No matter what the sticker says. All right, that's fine.